Okay, so now we're ready to talk about star clusters. So here's our picture of a typical galaxy. Up here you have your population 2 type stars, which represent the old stars that formed the galaxy. Then you've got your population 1 type star in the plane of the galaxy, and for example, our sun is a population 1 type star. So population 2 type stars eventually turn into population 1 type stars. Now back in Unit 3, we talked about how stars form. And so they started out as this big gas cloud. And then as they collapsed, they fragmented into smaller gas clouds. And then as those fragments collapsed, they fragmented into smaller gas clouds. And then each one of those small gas clouds eventually turns into a solar system and a star. So we said that stars tend to be born in clusters. So just as there are 2 major kinds of stars, there's going to be 2 major kinds of star clusters. So you're going to have open star clusters and then globular star clusters. So let's start off by talking about the globular. So globular star clusters. Now these are going to be made of very old stars. They tend to be born in groups of up to 1 million stars at once. So imagine the size of this original gas cloud that gives rise to 1 million stars being born at the same time. Okay, they're found in the halo of the galaxy. So where was the halo? So the halo was this part here that surrounds the galaxy. And so what we could do here is we could have multiple stars here. So that would be one globular cluster. And then over here would be another cluster of population 2 type stars. So this would be another globular cluster. So you have multiple globular clusters, and each one of these globular clusters is composed of population 2 type stars, and you have 1 million of them being born at the same time. Okay, then you also have open clusters of stars, and notice that these are much smaller. So between 100 and 10,000 stars being born at the same time. They're relatively young stars, and they're found in the plane of the galaxy. So these star clusters are going to be found in the plane of the galaxy. They're going to be composed of the population 1 type stars. So this would be very typical of a star cluster that's born in our galaxy. So the idea is that after the Big Bang, the original material that formed were these globular clusters of stars. Then they collided with each other and they eventually formed a galaxy. So how do star clusters form? Well, we don't need to know about that because you learned that in unit number 3, so you're not going to be tested on it. So you might be interested in knowing, what does our star cluster look like? So this is called the local group, and it's about 20,000 light years in diameter, and the sun is probably not in the center of this cluster. Okay, but we always like to put the sun as being the center of the universe. It's not even the center of our galaxy, but just for purposes of argument, we're putting the sun in the middle of this cluster here. And so here are some of the stars that were probably born at the same time as our sun. And one of them that you should know for the exam is Epsilon Eridani, which is up there in the corner. So it's going to be this one here. So this one is very important because this is where Mr. Spock was born. So the planet Vulcan is in orbit around this star. It's true. Okay, read the Star Trek books and you'll know about that. And then down here, This one here is Wolf 359, and so that one is very important because when the Borg invaded our part of the galaxy, the Federation sent out like 40 starships to stop it, and that single Borg cube was able to destroy them all. It's true. And then over here, you should recognize Alpha Centauri, because I said earlier in the course that Alpha Centauri was the birthplace of Zephram Cochrane, who was the inventor of warp drive. You're not writing that down? All right, never mind then. I try to educate you, and this is what happens. All right, so that's what a star cluster is. So now we are going to talk about what galaxies are in our next segment.